welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack. This is your latest Manchester United news, morning news show, and we've got plenty to talk about, as we always do. As you can see from the title of the YouTube, Marcus Rashford to PSG is on. PSG confirmed their interest pretty much, and it's coming out from Ben Jacobs, so we'll get in and talk about that as well. I also want to talk a little bit about the reports coming out that Manchester United are linking themselves with Ludonautics, I think is how you pronounce it, sports advisory and statistical analysis business. It's run by Liverpool's former director of research. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what that might entail for Manchester United. And a little bit then as well on some injuries, specifically in relation to Tyrell Malacia, and maybe some concerns in the background about his overall long-term fitness and whether United need to go in to the market. Smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Hit the subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel, and as always, get your comments in. Morning news show, so going to keep it to about 20 minutes or so. We'll run through some of the topics and anything else that you guys want to talk about as well, as always. But we're going to start, guys, of course, with Marcus Rashford, and the headline of the, I suppose, video is in relation to him. Ben Jacobs has been speaking about Marcus Rashford and the links with PSG, and he comes out and says PSG will not move for Marcus Rashford unless the player gives assurances that he wants to join them. They feel they were used by Rashford in their last talks as leverage for a better contract at Manchester United. So, number of different things to dissect from this here more than anything is that, first and foremost, the interest from PSG is there for Marcus Rashford. And I think that's the most, I suppose that's the main takeaway from this. PSG do want Marcus Rashford and they would like to sign him. But again, they're not going to be held to ransom. And you can see, and it's completely understandable from, you know, any top club, you don't want to get the runaround from players. We've seen it an awful lot with Manchester United over the last few years that, you know, we've been used an awful lot by players who are not at the club to get better contracts at their current club. And PSG are saying basically Rashford done that the season, the start of, or the end of last season, to maybe negotiate a new contract and a better deal with Manchester United. We've seen it done before. The majority of the time, it's against us and it's not in our favour. Marcus Rashford done it in his favour this time for PSG. So, look, Marcus Rashford came out and done an interview last week and, you know, spoke about how much he loves the club and how committed he is and so on and so forth. And, you know, we're, as a fan base, we've been talking about, is it time for him to move on? And, you know, we've been talking about his demeanour on the pitch and does he really want to be at Manchester United? He doesn't look like he does, and so on and so forth. If Manchester United want to sell him and the player doesn't want to leave, then I think it's pretty much down to the player. I don't think we can really do anything about it. And, you know, given the fact that he's on massive money, what is it, 375 grand a week I think he's on? I mean, no player is going to leave that kind of contract unless they're getting similar money elsewhere. And why would you? Especially if you're leaving for a lesser league in, you know, in Ligue 1 in France. Now, look, you're pretty much guaranteed to be Champions League quarter-finalists with PSG nearly every year, you would have to say. I don't know, are PSG kind of making a change in how they sign players? That, you know, we're talking about the Mbappes, the Neymars, the Messis. Obviously, Messi is gone. Mbappe is leaving, and is Neymar gone? Neymar's gone as well. I think he's in Saudi as well. So it looks like there's a change of direction. Now, is Marcus Rashford the new way or the new journey that PSG, or the new direction that they want to go in? That remains to be seen. Let me know if you'd sell Marcus Rashford. That's what I want to know more than anything else. I think Marcus Rashford is on trial between now and the end of the season with Manchester United fans especially. And I think with Ineos. Because, you know, we've heard an awful lot from the likes of Omar Barada when he came in and he was announced as the new CEO, that he is very much part of the, he's part of the core people that would say, you've got 2 years to prove yourself once you come in, and if you don't, then it's time to move them on. Now, moving players on that are on 375 grand a week is going to be very difficult, and that's always going to be the case. However, does Marcus Rashford want to leave Manchester United? Does he want to maybe get away from the English media, the pressures that he's under. That remains to be seen. I don't know. Would I sell Marcus Rashford? Look, I've mentioned it in the past, and I have said yes in the past, and I think maybe that's knee-jerk reactions to him having some, bad performances, or maybe vexing me a little bit with lack of effort. I want Marcus Rashford to work out at Manchester United. I think the potential for him to be a good player is there. I don't think he's ever going to be world class. I don't think he has it in his locker, but he's got a lot of attributes that would make him, a really, really, really top player if he could do it on a consistent basis. But I mean, if an offer of 80 plus million comes in the summer, I find it very difficult to turn it down. I just do. I find it very difficult. If we're looking at Marcus Rashford's career and the inconsistencies he's had over, the last 5-6 years, you would say, ever since he's been, in the first team, then I mean, if we could get an offer of 80 million in the door for Marcus Rashford or above, that's pounds now, 80 million pounds. I think we take it. I really, really do. I think if Anthony comes to Manchester United for 85 million pounds, now we know Manchester United are terrible at negotiating. Well, the Manchester United of old, we don't know what Ineos are like yet. But the Manchester United of old are terrible at negotiating. But if Anthony costs 85 million, then Rashford is easily a £100 million player. He is. Whether PSG will pay that or not, that remains to be seen. I find it difficult to turn down an £80 million offer for Marcus Rashford in the summer. I really do. Let's see. Danny says, I like Rashford, but he's overrated and not good enough in the last few years. What he's done, we should cash in on him. The club are setting a bad example for the young players by keeping him. And Neverword says, his chat isn't translating to the pitch. That's the problem. He can say all he wants, how much he loves the club, but unless he's performing, then he should move on. Spot on. And Finn is in. He says, as much as I'm up for selling him, we would want to have a deal in place for a replacement before he heads out the door. Well, look, I think that's the reason why you would want to see, the likes of a Dan Ashworth coming in and getting his feet under the desk as quickly as possible so we can start preparing for the summer transfer window. Now, look, I'm under don't be under any illusions here. Manchester United are preparing for the summer transfer window as we speak. Ineos or Jim Ratcliffe, whoever else it may be, they are working behind the scenes at the moment to identify players with the scouting department and so on and so forth. And if the likes of Dan Ashworth and Omar Barada are pretty much done deals, and we know Dan Ashworth is on gardening leave with Newcastle, I mean, they can already be recommending players to us. So I think we are, and I think maybe there's a couple of plans in place for the summer. One where you sell Rashford and one where you don't. And I think that's a smart move to make. You go, okay, if we sell Rashford, if we sell him, we're not selling him for less than 80 million. Now, with that 80 million, who can we buy? We can get this lad for 40. We can get this lad for 50. You know what I mean? Maybe 30 up front with a 10 million, in installments or whatever the case may be. And I think all of these conversations should and probably are going on in the background with United at the moment. And they need to be. They really do need to be. I want to move it on then as well, guys. Some interesting reports coming out from Matt Hughes in the Daily Mail in relation to Manchester United kind of having discussions with a statistical analysis business. Let me put it up on the screen here and we'll go through it. Manchester United have had discussions with Ludonautics, the sports advisory and statistical analysis business run by Liverpool's former Director of Research, Dr. Ian Graham, but they are not working for the club. Michael Edwards also works for them as a consultant. United maintain an ongoing dialogue with a number of data and analytics providers to ensure that they are fully informed about the latest developments in a rapidly evolving sector. Now, basically, well, look, supposedly, this report coming out is suggesting that these are the types of businesses that have, given Liverpool this guy, pretty much. Basically what they're saying is they go and they deep dive in terms of statistics and analysis on players and, certain aspects of their game to maybe identify players that other teams are overlooking. And this is just another area that I'm absolutely delighted that Manchester United are hopefully making a move towards. I go back to what I've said a number of times about Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. Jim Ratcliffe is not an expert when it comes to football or sport in general, but he is well able to diversify the roles within a sporting sector, whether it be football or cycling or, what was it, boat racing, what he done as well. So that's what we need to do, and that's what we're seeing here with Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe. And all of these reports coming out are all positives from a Manchester United standpoint, from a fan perspective as well, that we're looking to appoint the best people in the best areas to get the best out of the club. And it's been sorely lacking for so long. These kind of things working in the background are something now we should never hear about ever again, but they should always be there. And all of a sudden, in 2 or 3 years' time, or maybe in 6 months' time, when the summer transfer window comes, they're identifying players for us. No, wait now. There's a guy, in playing for Lazio in Serie A that everybody is overlooking, but this statistical analysis business goes, no, you got to look at this guy. And then we send scouts to look at him. Then, Omar Barada or Dan Ashworth go, yeah, I like to look at him as well. And all of a sudden you find yourself a gem that nobody else is looking at. Obviously Liverpool done it with the likes of Salah. You seen even Man City to an extent doing it with Kevin De Bruyne. These are all kind of things that in the background of a football club you need to have, because every opportunity you can to make the club better and to identify players better, I mean, the bigger advantage that you have going out onto the pitch. It's all about recruitment. Recruitment. We've got in a fantastic academy at Manchester United that continuously produce quality players. Now, you do have, obviously, like everything in the world, there is moments where, it maybe goes in cycles, where you mightn't have a player reaching the first team for, maybe a season or two, and then all of a sudden you might get 2 or 3 players in the one season. If you have these kind of things working in the background and your recruitment is good, it's the lifeblood. Alongside the academy, the recruitment is the lifeblood of a football club and how you perform on and off the field. When Manchester United, or with a club like Manchester United, not that we've got unlimited funds, but we should and we have been the biggest spenders over the last, we're up there with the biggest spenders over the last 10 years, okay? Now, we've spent that money wrong. And I think it's very easy, well, not very easy, but it's quite clear to see how you change a poorly run club in respect of recruitment to a good one. You put people in place who know what they're doing. If you're looking at something like this, a statistical analysis business, bringing in Dan Ashworth, who's supposedly the best director of football money can buy, Omar Barada as well. We know Dave Brailsford is involved now with Manchester United, and he's a big advocate of getting the 1%, that extra 1% when it comes to when it comes to improving. These are all positives for Manchester United, and if we get people in like that pulling in the one direction, it can only be a positive for the club. It really, really can, and it's something that I am very excited about. When we're talking at the moment about, the disappointments of being on of the results on the pitch, and maybe the style of play, and maybe the manager, and maybe a couple of players here and there, just zoom out a little bit. That's all I would say. Just zoom out a little bit. And I know we've been burnt as Manchester United fans over the last 10 years. Is it ever going to get better? Is it ever going to get better? But there are things being put in place now that are giving us the platform to go on and make things better. And I think that's the most important thing. So stick with it. That's what I would say. And look, I want Eric Ten Hag to be the manager, and I want him to be successful at Manchester United. But if Ineos decide in the summer that he's not the man, then okay, we're just going to have to get on with it and go, all right, let's move on. Who are you putting in place? If you don't agree with the manager that they appoint, just give it 12 months and let's say, okay, are we improving? Are we going in the right direction? Are we signing the right players? And that's what Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe and the overarching structure that he's trying to put in place will be judged on. And that's what we will look to do over the next couple of seasons. Let's see. Matthew is in. Good to see you, Matthew. We've got Neverword says that's promising. It takes that pressure off of Ten Hag and the sales department for recruitment. Absolutely. Finn says, like the movie Moneyball, identify cheap players with top stats. Absolutely. That's it. Adam says, with FFP becoming so prominent in football, now this data analytics is definitely the way to go to unearth gems before they become £100 million players. Absolutely, Adam. Absolutely, and why wouldn't you give yourself that opportunity? And I think that's where Manchester United have fallen down over the past 10 years, is that we've waited for a player to come through Brighton or Southampton and add 50 million to their valuation before we look at him. Why not go and pick him up out of South America before he goes to someone like Brighton or Dortmund or whoever it may be? You know what I mean? Neverword says, with the correct structure, Erik Ten Hag done this very thing with Ajax. This is going to be fruitful for us. Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons why I hope he's given at least another 12 months. Because I think he will, thrive under this structure. I really do. And like we said before, if it wasn't Erik Ten Hag in charge at the moment, and we were going out looking for a manager now, it would be someone like Erik Ten Hag we would be looking at. Finn says, English players always go for top dollar. Rashford is a short seller and young enough to go for big money. Definitely 80 million plus. I agree with you, Finn. Yep, I agree with you. Danny says, the list of replacement managers are no good. I'd rather keep Erik Ten Hag till a better manager is available. Right, I want to move it on a little bit, guys, before we finish up. And I want to talk a little bit about Tyrell Malacia, who we've got here. Ineos harbour concerns over Ten Hag's signings, long-term fitness, and could be forced to sign cover in the summer. Now, this is coming out from Manchester World. There are particular concerns among Manchester United supporting chiefs regarding one particular injury-plagued department this season. Ineos could have their hand forced into the market in search of a new left-back at the end of the campaign due to apprehensions over Malacia's long-term fitness as well as Luke Shaw's troubling injury record. Now, I only spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said that I think in the next couple of seasons we are going to be going into the transfer market for a left-back. Not because there's no quality there. I think Luke Shaw as our number one left back with Tyrell Malacia as a backup is absolutely ideal. I think it's absolutely ideal. But injuries with these two players, Luke Shaw has had reoccurring niggles and now he looks to be out for the remainder of the season. And Malacia just can't seem to get over the injury that he got in pre-season, which is worrying. Now, I don't know what's going on in the background, and it's probably something we will never find out about, but it's concerning. He was supposed to be back in, I think originally in November, then it was pushed to January, and I don't think we've got a return date from him. So he's obviously hit setbacks in his rehabilitation and his recovery, and it is a big concern. I think left back is one of the areas that we're going to have to look to improve over the coming maybe 18 months, I would say. If not this summer, definitely next summer. Now, what I would like to see is, us go out and sign a left back that can actually properly challenge Luke Shaw for that left back spot. Because what we've seen over the last few seasons is anytime a left back comes in, take Telles, for example. Luke Shaw was kind of laboured. He wasn't playing too well. All of a sudden, Telles comes in. Luke Shaw just turns it on. And we've seen it as well when Malacia came in last season, that Luke Shaw all of a sudden Malacia, I think, started the first 4 or 5 games of the season, or there was a period where he kept Luke Shaw out of the team. And all of a sudden, Luke Shaw just upped his game and kicked on. So, rather than getting a backup replacement, now, obviously, you do have to take into consideration how much players are going to cost. A backup is going to cost a lot less than a challenger to a position. Now, I would prefer to get a challenger to a position in. If you could get a left back in that could go toe-to-toe with Luke Shaw, you're obviously going to pay more for them. However, you are adding a lot more quality to that area. And we got to get that balance right. Now, if Tyrell Malacia's injuries continue, we bought him for, 13 or 14 million, I think is all it was. You would probably recoup an awful lot of that money. You really would. Because he's played well for Manchester United anytime he has played. But I do think we're going to have to go into the market for a left back. If not this summer, certainly next summer. And maybe Well, look, obviously the injuries and how the two players recover from them injuries between now and the end of the season will determine whether we actually go into the market in the summer or not for a left back. Whether that be just for a cover, or maybe even a player on loan that could come in as a third left back, like we've seen with Reguilon. Again, a lot of people were criticising the fact that United let Reguilon go back to or leave, end his loan period when we could have extended it to the end of the season. But you do have to take into consideration, Malacia was on the way back from his injury. Luke Shaw was fully fit and flying it. Reguilon goes back, and then all of a sudden, Malacia gets a setback in his recovery and Luke Shaw gets injured. You just can't. You can't account for these variables. You really can't. But let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Do you think left back is an area of concern? Do you think we need to be improving it? Let me know in the comment section below. We're going to leave it there, guys. Morning news show wrapped up again. We will be back tonight from 8 o'clock for the news show, and we'll go in depth into all of these topics as well as other ones. I want to talk probably tonight a little bit about Jadon Sancho coming out in the last couple of hours or so about him potentially wanting to return to Manchester United. Is he seeing the writing on the wall for Erik ten Hag? So we'll get into that tonight at 8 o'clock. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. If you haven't already done so, please do hit the thumbs up button as well. Helps the channel out an awful lot. Check out the merch as well, guys. We've got merchandise. I've set up a merch store as well for anybody that wants to get some United Community Channel merch. We've got about 6 or 7 designs up there. You can get phone cases, t-shirts, hoodies, all that kind of stuff. Link is in the description of the video. Go check it out. It supports the channel massively, so I do appreciate that as well. But thanks for watching. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.